Trey, what is up, baby?
Let's go. Let's
1 and
go.
0.
Come
1
on
and
with it.
0. Coming out of the weekend of football feeling pretty damn good. I don't know about you, but everything I saw, I know it's just week 1, we can't get too crazy on the overreactions, but everything I saw, you got to be feeling good if you're in Chiefs Kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, obviously walking out of Thursday feeling damn good,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
chest puffed out.
watching the rest of the contenders in the AFC really struggle week 1 was also a phenomenal feeling. Knowing that Chiefs came out hot, beat what a team that some people are calling the best in the AFC. We're calling the best in the AFC. Some of them are calling the second best in the AFC. Some of them are calling third best in the AFC. Regardless, tier one team in the AFC, Chiefs go handle business, and you see teams like the Dolphins struggle, then win on a field goal as time expires in the fourth.
Right.
The Bills struggle the first half against Arizona and end up coming back and winning that one. And obviously the Bengals, who we have this week, and we'll talk a little bit about here later on in the next show. But they come out and lose to the freaking Pats. No Billy B, no Tom Brady, just the raw Patriots.
Jared Mayo's Patriots, right? Something you haven't heard since
Yeah,
like 2008.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, man, honestly, top to bottom, a lot of great stuff if you're looking at it through red and yellow lenses. Starting with Thursday, right? We'll just touch on that real quick. Player of the game in my mind, Rashee Rice. He ended the week 1, top 10 receiver across the board, a little bit over 100 yards in that game on Thursday. Made some big time impact plays, including that slant that he ended up taking for like 40 yards. I mean, that was the bulk of his routes, but I mean, he was just working the middle of the field. He's making defenders look foolish um, in how he was breaking out of that from the line. So I have to give the nod to him because he kept those drives moving.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we talked about it a couple times over the weekend, whether it was group text or talking on the phone. But
Right.
Rashee Rice catching the ball, and man, that guy goes freaking north right now.
Oh,
Like it's
dude.
not kind of like a curve when he comes
No
off the
Demarcus
slant.
Robinson situation here.
Dude, it's like slant, catch ball, boom, I'm north. Like I'm going,
Right.
yeah, which is awesome. You get so many more yards off of that. It's so much more harder for that defender to tackle you that's covering you in man. And you go to that third level and create those one-on-one situations where he can explode. He's so fast, man. And he's
Right.
a big body. So yeah, that's fun to watch. I feel like that's one of the developmental things we saw out of Rashee Rice come out of from late last season into this season is that fact right there. His route running's got better, but also his yak, where we see other receivers on the Chiefs teams over the last few years. That's where we've really gotten a lot of our yards is from yak and learning from the best from Travis Kelsey. So
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's something that's really developed over the last couple of seasons since Tyreek Hill kind of had his exit. Um, and so I mean, just everything we saw on Thursday makes me think that the Chiefs are going to be taking things a little more vertical, um, a little more often, really, which has me excited. Who did you feel had the best game on Thursday?
I'm picking Trent McDuffie, and not because he packed the stat sheet. I think he only had 4 tackles, no pass defense, no sacks, no interceptions, nothing like that. But from that one play, that 4th and 2, where they went for it,
Oh yeah,
and as you know just as well as I do, those fourth down plays are crucial moments. You know, it's like an additional special teams play that goes the other way and flips the script and flips the momentum, right? So
yep,
if you're able to make that stop 4th and 2, get the ball back to Pat Mahomes on the opposite 40 or the opposite 45 or midfield, wherever it may be, then that's a huge advantage for the offense, and that builds up momentum and continues through the game. So for me, he gets the player of the game, and that being Trent McDuffie and the play of the game. Such a crucial moment in the game, stopping that 4th and 2 open field. tackle. I mean, that's tough for cornerbacks anyways.
Oh
Tough
yeah.
football player, but especially tough for cornerbacks. And that was a great play, man.
Well, like it was on Zay Flowers too, who is not a slow guy by any means. I mean, that guy can cut and just be gone, leave you in the dust. So
Yep.
that just speaks to the caliber of play that it was, that McDuffie made on the field there. And really, it could have been a situation that turned the game on its head, being a fourth down potential conversion. So I love that. I love that he's not really an interception guy, McDuffie.
Right.
He's not known for putting up those kinds of numbers, but I mean, he's going to get in there and make the plays when they matter most and keep those guys from catching passes. So I'm all on board for that. Final result 27-20, a little bit of a sweat fest the last
Yeah.
minute and a half of regulation there.
Yeah.
Uh, Ravens march down the field. Isaiah Likely just a toe away from potentially tying this thing. If not, I feel like the common ideal was that the Ravens would go for two. That's typically what happens in
Yeah.
those situations, especially when folks are coming out to Arrowhead. So,
They were calling for it.
man, it was a little sweaty. I was out in the concourse for that.
No
Your boy
way.
was tired. Your
I
boy
don't
was
remember
ready to get
that.
out of there. I went to the bathroom with probably 2 minutes left. And I was like, you know what? I'm not trudging back up those stairs. I'm standing right here and watching the game on the monitor. He catches the touchdown, or what appeared to be a touchdown at first glance. I was like, you're freaking kidding me. The defense was gassed the whole way back
Yeah.
down. And, I'm sitting there, hands and knees, waiting to see what's going to happen. And then I saw the replay show the toe. I was like, forget about the toe. We're out of here. We're out of
Gotta
here.
go.
I marched my
Gotta
happy
go.
ass to the bus.
Yeah, I remember, man. I mean, like you said, what an electric last 90 seconds of the game driving down the field.
Sheesh.
Lamar and the Ravens get several different shots into the end zone and can't capitalize. And last one is just so damn close. And
Oh, man.
it would have been really interesting to see what would happen there on the 2-point conversion if they did get the touchdown. But
I'm not interested in that scenario at all.
we'll never know. So now we're going to move on to Cincinnati. But a couple of highlights from the game. Obviously, Xavier Worthy, he has been a huge conversation over the weekend, whether it's ESPN, podcast here in Kansas City,
Man.
podcast in Baltimore, podcast down in Texas, man. This guy's getting all the love with the one receiving touchdown and also a rushing touchdown. The first being rushing around the edge on a somewhat of like a fake counter reverse, and takes it down the field. I think 21 yards for the rushing touchdown.
Oh,
Dude is
yeah.
freaking lightning fast.
He
And
cooked.
on top of that, one of the other huge plays was the strip sack. Chris Jones. I know you were fired up after that one, waving that jersey around and screaming. I could see the veins popping out of your neck. So that had everybody fired up. That, I mean,
It's
I don't know what
9-5
else.
day, baby, and he gets
It
a strip
is,
sack. You're
man.
kidding me.
It is. Yep. And then Jalen Watson had a phenomenal day across the board. I mean, he played solid football. One of the highest rated players on the Chiefs team with Pro Football Focus on Thursday, and just overall had a great game. I think he allowed like 40 yards on 6 passes, 1 pass batted down, and
Such a clean bat, too.
yeah, yep. And so that was kind of a question mark for me. Was some of these young corners, how is that going to backfill, how are they going to backfill Jerry Sneed? And it
Right.
looks like we're in good hands.
No, that was honestly really exciting to see. Not only Watson, but like Shamari Connor came out and played really well. And speaking of backfilling, Leo Chenal had a hell of a game too. And so did Drew Tranquil. I mean, all of those guys that had to kind of step up and fill in for some of these departures. They really came out and played. Worthy, so exciting to see. Obviously, you got to give a shout out to Mahomes. What a better situation to set the franchise passing record than a strike to Travis Kelce. Just textbook. I mean, there's no other player that should have caught that pass
Yeah.
for him to move past Lenny D on the passing chart there. But Yeah, pretty awesome altogether. Some things that I think need to be paid attention to. This was a problem across the league, the cardio, right? The endurance for these players. You miss so many preseason games as a starter. There's less preseason games as it is. So really, week one is kind of like a tune-up session for these guys. The back half of the game, the defense in particular, they looked gassed. I mean, they were down on knees in between plays. Isaiah Likely, he had that injury scare towards the end of the game in that final drive, and I feel like defensive players were like, "Give me some oxygen now." Like
Yeah.
while this clock is stopped and while I have the chance. I feel like that's the only reason why the Ravens were able to march down the field in that final drive was because of how gassed these guys really were.
Yeah, I think to look on top of that, the way this defense is structured, it's a bend don't break defense. It's a 12 play drive kind of a defense,
Yeah.
and then we're going to stop you on the 30. You're going to kick the field goal, right? And you may take up 8, 9 minutes of the clock. But this is not a defense where we're going to go out and get two or three straight back 3 and outs, right? Or we don't
hmm
go out and get those pick six, or we don't go out and get a lot of turnovers either, for that matter. And we're on the field for an extended period of time, so it's going to be something that the defense is going to need to, be able to figure out really, and be able to rotate out. I there was a point in the fourth quarter. I don't remember if it was the last drive or the drive before the last, where they were on their own 40 or 30. Chris Jones comes out, and by the time they were in the red zone, Chris Jones comes back in, and I know there's a point at where guys need rest, but to come out of the game when the game is on the line, fourth quarter, like, we need the best guys in, and you at some point you gotta suck it up and get out there and get it done. I mean, that frustrates me. I'm not gonna get into that. I'm not gonna sit here on a soapbox, but
We got the
um,
dub,
yeah,
you know.
something's got to be figured out for sure. I'm sure Andy's got a plan for that. After the games, they chalk all those things up. What are the gaps? What are the solutions?
Yeah.
But another guy, kind of kind of under the microscope, really has been, for the last 2 months, is Nick Bolton. It kind of looks like he's taken a step in the wrong direction, one with the injuries, but also with his speed, from sideline to sideline. He was once known for that guy to cover sideline to sideline no matter what, shed the blocks, make the tackle. Coverage this last week against the Ravens, he looked slow. He looked a step
Yeah.
behind. And that's
It
something we
was
saw
rough.
last season as well. And something you and I talked about last season, where, Nick Bolton's got to get that step back. And, if whether it's mental, whether it's actual physical ability, I'm not sure. It's probably more of a mental thing, being able to register what the play is, or he's lost some of that confidence that he once roamed around the field with. But
Yeah.
that is one guy I do have a lot of faith in on the team. I
hmm
I think Nick Bolton has the right mentality, right mindset to be a successful football player. So, if he could stay healthy, I got full trust in Nick Bolton to come back and be that player we once knew him to be.
100%. And I think that's part of it too, right? He re-aggravated that wrist injury during training camp, during preseason, which caused him to miss some time too. So really it could be just some mental errors, mental mistakes in what the defense that was being called and what his assignment was on those given plays. Um, I think a silver lining in this situation is that we have other linebackers that can kind of pick up the slack for him as he kind of gets back to form. Because I agree with you, there's not a player that I have more faith in on the defense to correct those mistakes. I mean, the guy we've seen him play at a very high level, right? And so I think that return to form is within the cards in the near future for him. But another silver lining, really, he wasn't the worst graded linebacker on the field that day. It was Roquan Smith. So, I mean, if a perennial all pro player like Roquan Smith can have a bad night, then so can Nick Bolton. I think that's just something where, give him a little bit of grace, give him some time to get acclimated, and he'll get back there. But, my hope is that it's sooner rather than later, especially with him being in a contract year.
Agreed, man. Agreed.
So, We'll take a step off of the Chiefs Raiders or Chiefs Ravens game here. My mistake. Looking at the next topic we're about to talk about here. Let's jump into week one, man, and just talk about how this kind of impacts the Chiefs before we wrap up the show here. Um, Across the board, we had an AFC matchup, AFC West matchup rather. Chiefs rate or Chargers Raiders. There I go doing it again. Chargers got the dub over the Raiders. Neither one of these teams looked good, and I think that looks good for the Chiefs.
Oh yeah.
Um, Broncos took an L to the Seahawks. They did not look great either. I think at one point the score of that game was like 5-8, and it was like two safeties and a field goal and something else, like just ridiculous stuff going on there. 6-8, I don't know. Um, Bottom line is, we'll just talk AFC West right now. None of these three teams, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Broncos, scare me about the Chiefs' chances to capture another division title, at least not after week one.
Absolutely not. No, I think where we stand right now, we are levels above where these other three teams are at. You know, between defenses, between young, unexperienced quarterbacks, new head coaches. I think there's just a sense of consistency and a path forward for the Chiefs to a ninth straight AFC West champ. So
Mm,
it's just about being consistent, staying healthy, and playing the ball we know.
100%, 100%. The only thing that really, I could see from these AFC West teams something panning out is if Justin Herbert starts to return to form and get a little better, because J.K. Dobbins, that's a silver lining for the
Yep.
Chargers, and
Yep.
something. The run game traditionally is something that the Chiefs have had some problems with, right? Because we are bend don't break, right? We'll let them get those chunk plays in the yards until it's about backs against the red zone, and that's when everyone kind of tightens up and buckles down. Um,
Yep.
so with his emergence, that's definitely a little bit of a concern. The Raiders have no idea who their quarterback is going to be from week to week. Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, who's going to have the hot hand, whatever. Rookie quarterback for the Broncos, Nix. Maybe
Yep.
he's showed some flashes. I didn't see anything that was overly impressive. Their defense had a great game. I'll give the Broncos that. But other than that, man, there was not a lot that you could be optimistic about for these teams. Maybe the Chargers a little bit on their defensive line too. Khalil Mack looked great, being a 33-year-old defensive end in this league. But yeah, man, I'm not worried whenever it comes time for the Chiefs to play these divisional opponents.
Same here. Expectation for me is a sweep this year after, last couple of years have been a struggle to get that sweep.
100%. The rest of the contenders, we'll put those in quotes because they did not look like contenders. At least they didn't look like teams that could challenge the Chiefs. The Ravens, I think if they play any other team on this list, they get a win this week. They
Agreed.
just so happen to match up against the Kansas City Chiefs.
I
Uh,
agree.
Bengals, you alluded to it earlier. Patriots were controlling that entire game, forcing
Yep.
turnovers in key moments to keep them from scoring until the fourth quarter, basically. Browns look terrible. Deshaun Watson, we don't have to get too deep into the POS that he is, but um, did not look good for the Cleveland Browns. There was one point their all-pro guard Joel Bitonio was on his back. Watson extended a hand and he slapped it away to let himself up. So there's some turmoil going on there, some culture issues for the Browns that just don't have me concerned. The Jets look rough against the Niners, and then you kind of talked about the other ones earlier, right? The Bills, the Texans, the Jaguars. There wasn't anything that jumped out the page to me to say this is a team that is going to give us problems in the postseason. It's week one. I don't want
Yeah.
to overreact, but the Ravens are the only team I think that can hold a candle to us right now.
Yeah, I think the only team I would go out on a limb on and say, hey, look, these guys, beat expectations of what I had for them, and that would be the Colts. Hanging in,
Mm,
leading most of that game against the Texans, but hanging in till
yeah,
the end there. Anthony Richardson looked damn good.
he
A
did look good.
very
I'll give
young
him that.
receiver core that looked really good. I think the Colts could be a problem for the AFC and specifically the South this year. There's going to be a lot of competition in the South this year, and I see them taking one of those wild card slots for sure.
Yeah, I mean that is a good point with the Colts, right? Anthony Richardson, What a freaking arm, by the way.
Yeah, cannon, man, and he's
Good
fast, and he's a
lord.
big dude.
He is. He's like a tight end playing quarterback. Um, the Colts don't land on our schedule this year. So luckily that's not a team the Chiefs have to worry about, at least in the regular season. Maybe they sneak in as a wild card and make their way over to Arrowhead. I'm not concerned with them in Arrowhead. All that noise, what the culture does in
Yep,
Kansas City in
yep.
terms of making teams uncomfortable when they come to town. The Bills, man, they play like the second half team that showed up. They're going to be great. They keep playing like the first half team that showed up. They're going to have problems and they're going to
Yeah.
lose games that they probably shouldn't lose. The Cardinals being one of those games. Shout out to the Cardinals for covering the spread. Um, but no, I mean, no concerns here. Bengals coming to town. We'll talk about them later on this week in our next episode when we drop that for the preview. Um, but what they showed on the field, it's going to be fun talking about it whenever we get back on the mic for that. So,
Absolutely.
Trey, you have any final words for week one before we put a cap on it?
Final words for Chiefs fans. Enjoy it. Let's keep embracing every week. Love the big wins, but every week's important. Every week's a new week. We're 0-0 every week. So if you are a Chiefs fan going to the game, make sure you're loud. Doesn't matter who we're playing. It's
Damn
Bingle
right.
week, which is a big week for us now. It's got the same mentality, same kind of vibe as Raider week has for the last 25 years. So make sure you're there. Make sure you're loud. Let's get it.
Let's go, Chiefs. Peace, everyone.